Hello, welcome to Comic Spot. My sign fell down and Walgreens does not have any thumbtacks. So welcome to Comic Spot. That's
Yay.
where, thank you, Deb. That's where this Army veteran vets out veterans comedy. Tonight, while I got my phone, we have a lady here from San Francisco, Deb Maar. She's in the other box over there. We're going to get to know her and we're going to get behind supporting her comedy career. She's been doing comedy a year and a quarter and she hasn't given up yet. So she's miles ahead of me. I gave up a couple of times. I'm going to read you her intro. It's pretty funny. So she says she started doing comedy seriously last year and has already pissed off a lot of male comics. Yep, I lost my place. Making the sloppy transition from MILF to cougar by way of her stimulus check. And at her bat mitzvah, everyone said she sang like an angel. One of the founders of the Chicks with Mics Facebook group for women stand-up comics. They have a weekly women's open mic on Saturdays at 1 p.m. Pacific time. That's what we're here to talk about. Welcome to the little tiny stage here tonight. The lady in front of the blue curtain, Deb Maar. Woo! Hi, Deb.
So much, Linda. Such an honor to be here and to completely interrupt your intro.
It's okay. All the time. No problem. Hi, Deb.
Hi.
How's San Francisco during a pandemic?
Cold and foggy.
I lived in San Francisco in the 90s.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't do it in the 60s like the rest of people from my high school. No, I waited till the 90s. Yeah. Yeah. So what do you do when you're not being funny, when you're not practicing comedy, performing it, doing your once a week women's stand-up show? What do you do? What are some of your interests?
Some of my interests, well, research on the work side.
You have a day job?
Well, actually, I took time off, and I mean, I started comedy over 40, and just was a right time to devote myself to it.
Very good.
Yeah.
What was your day job?
Well, I did freelance research.
Oh, okay. It is research. Okay, got it.
Yeah. And
Where'd you
worked for a community college teachers union. I mean, a lot of underemployment.
Wow.
You know,
Where'd you grow up?
it wasn't the hugest sacrifice.
Yes. Where'd you grow up? I already went on to the next subject without you. Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in the Monterey Bay area.
Wow.
College in New York.
Where?
I went to Barnard.
No way. That's cool.
It was for a California kid, it was a fabulous experience.
Absolutely. What was your degree in?
Are you ready for this?
Yes.
It is so perfect for now, Linda.
Okay.
I majored in political science with a concentration in right-wing Latin American dictatorships.
Oh my God.
I am ready to escort you through the next 10 years of America. You're welcome.
Is it true that political science people love to argue? Or is that just something I heard? Like, are you good at debate?
Well, I just thought it was Jews like to argue. And so
Totally.
that qualifies me to go into political science.
Me too. I could have gotten a half a major. My dad's side.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like Goldie Hawn.
Yes, yes. Absolutely.
Yes, I know the Jews and half Jews in show business.
Super.
We
I'm
keep
telling you.
charts.
What's that?
We keep charts.
Yes.
And the
I have like 13 different half Jewish jokes, none of which really go over well in New York City. So, just a thing, I guess. So I save them for Vegas. People love to laugh at us Jews here.
Oh gosh.
A little too much, you know. Hey, you're laughing too loud at that joke.
Well, I guess once Mo Green was gone, people felt free.
Yes. Yes. So tell me, how early in your life, you've been doing comedy about a year and a quarter, you said.
Mhm.
And what made, like where in your life where can you look back and go, that's the moment I knew I was funny. I was destined to one day get on. Do you have that moment?
Mm. I was really young. I was really, really young when I was making adults laugh. That's a great question.
Thank you.
Yeah. What a great
How-
thing to think
How
about.
young were you? Because like my parents survived the Holocaust.
Okay.
And they were like always staring off into space, and I was always trying to bring them back in the moment by doing goofy stuff to make them laugh.
Wow. Wow. I would love to hear more of your story sometime. I will consider this the beginning of our friendship.
Me too.
So I want to say 4 years old.
Wow, I believe it.
But my brain did it, right? I mean, that my brain configured ideas and words that way, and it just felt natural. It was like I think it's similar to musicians.
Yes.
When I hear musicians being interviewed, songwriters being interviewed, right? There's the music comes from somewhere, right?
Yep.
Into their brains, into their bodies, and then they spit it out in their own unique way. And that's always what it's been for me, more of an energy than anything else. And then the words just cap it off.
Absolutely. They're like the frosting on the cake.
Yeah, exactly. Because you're doing it in a moment. I'm trying to think. It'll come to me. I know there were a couple of. I wish I knew about the question. It's okay, but
that's okay. I think
I'm like, oh my god, I want to get armed with these stories and the the lines I had, my one-liners before I was
really
old. Sure, yeah, but
my goodness sakes, that's awesome. One-liners are they're like college level, dad jokes and rhymes and riddles. Those are kindergarten, first grade, whatever. But one-liners are difficult.
Yeah, I never, the stuff about why did the chicken cross the road, that kind of stuff. My brain doesn't, like I don't feel those.
Exactly.
I don't feel those. It's usually, like we do a lot of these online, we do these Zoom open mics, right? And we'll be chatting after and busting balls, right? And riffing. And that is the most comfortable context for me.
Me too.
Yeah.
Yeah. This has really helped my comedy, is to interview other comedians and get to riff with them and draw out information and decide when I'll add something. And it's much more natural for me than fabricating a joke and going in front of said audience you can't really read. And I get a read on you. I know what to say to you because I've been talking to you.
Right, exactly. And then with relationships, you start to build something. So,
Yes.
I wonder if women are more attuned to that.
I bet we are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
It's
mean,
our strength.
starting the Chicks with Mics women's comic group. Um, and I just did a mental note, like, did I send Linda an invite before the invitation? You're supposed to
No.
lie, but that's okay.
Oh, yes, you did. Yes, you did.
We're not good of friends yet. I'm so embarrassed. I get very tunnel vision, but when women are not in a comedy show at our level,
Mhm.
it is so noticeable.
Mhm.
And it's, in my opinion, my humble opinion, I love many male comics. I have to qualify, right? Otherwise,
Yeah.
I'm going to be my head's going to be put on a spike. Um, but the quality level goes down when there are no women in
Wow.
a comedy show. And the more women are included, the better the show, the better the energy, the more engaged the audience is. That's what I find. And a lot of comics agree. A lot of male comics agree. So I have male producers coming to us at Chicks with Mike saying, "Hey, we need more women comics. Can you help us?"
Wow.
Yeah. And there are just so many. I mean, in these online rooms, I am meeting the most extraordinarily talented women comics. It is, and I feel morally conflicted because it wouldn't have happened without global catastrophe.
Totally.
However, it's a treasure trove. I mean, I'm making the most unbelievable connections all over this country, Canada, Asia, Europe. It's really South Africa. It is extraordinary. So
Yes.
there's a little silver lining to this nightmare.
Yes. Even though we have survivor guilt,
Yeah.
we're not supposed to feel good that we survived and others perished.
You
There
know
are,
something about
there,
that.
we do have a little of that going on.
Yeah, that's an amazing observation.
Yeah. So, what have you been doing? Because we didn't come with a manual on how to raise children or make it through our first pandemic. So, how have you been getting through the pandemic? How are you staying sane, Deb?
Do I seem sane?
Yeah.
Then I'm faking it well.
I like your comedic timing. So when you first got on stage, do you remember the first time you did and how it felt before, during, and after? And can you take us through that night?
For stand up, okay, well, let's see. I'm not sure what counts because I did some classes here um, with an interesting hyper masculine comedy teacher. That's always real interesting. Who came up with comics in the 80s, big names, and take the best, leave the rest kind of experience for me. And so they had shows, right? They had their own class shows. And those were the first performances. I had done some stand up on and off through the years, and I couldn't stick with it. And I needed to get into recovery for eating disorder, some early childhood trauma. So it was after doing a lot of work that then I got off an SSRI, and then I we can we talk about sex in your show?
Sure, go right ahead.
I was masturbating like crazy, and then I started to write comedy. Then all of a sudden, the comedy just started to flow. So just know, folks, SSRIs can be temporary.
Absolutely.
Not necessarily supposed to be forever. And so then and I had wanted to come back to comedy. It's my first love. Sorry, political science. And so what was I saying? So I had done it a couple times, but I was not in a good place. And this was the first time in a healthy place. And so getting on stage, I mean, I think for a lot of it, it was almost like I couldn't feel myself. It was a warm crowd. I remember I was really terrified, and it was like, gosh, will I be able to connect with them?
Got it.
Will I be able to feel them? Will they be able to feel me? And I feel like since that point, that's been a real big part of my growth, is developing some comfort with that relationship.
With you and the audience.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. What's helped you to develop that?
A lot of therapy. My psychologist, I'm very blessed. She's brilliant. And she, from the beginning, she was talking to me about, from the beginning of the comedy, I had been with her for years. She'd been talking to me about, she said, this is an intimate relationship, Deb. You and you are revealing yourself to the audience. And I was coming in having been very, very private.
Mm-hmm.
I'm protective of myself, and I didn't have an easy childhood or early adulthood. And so in the rest of my life, I tend to not want to tell people about myself. And so the comedy has been this interesting cosmic force of getting me to reveal myself to others in a creative way. And so it hasn't just challenged me artistically, it's challenged me emotionally, and I think in a healthy way.
Yes. As we take off layers and make ourselves more transparent, we become more authentic, more believable, more likable, more relatable. And like it's scary at first. I remember I cried for 2 weeks before I could become authentic.
Sure, I get that. I absolutely get that. There's no, it's so interesting because I will talk to other performers, musicians, regardless of the art. Nothing else is like that. Nothing else is like standing on a stage. Just nothing. And so, and it's like, how there will be war buddies, right? Because they went through something together that other people, they just can't know.
Special bond, camaraderie.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So it seems a very, sorry, I wish I was talking faster. It's a very unique art. It's a very unique profession, and how, in comparison to other performing arts, stand-up comedy is more dependent on personality than any other performing art. I mean, you could have a choreographer and they put their imprint on a work, but you have the dancers interpreting it. We're up there And like what you're saying about getting more and more authentic, we are channeling our psyches just by ourselves, just standing up there with a freaking microphone. It is way hard. I was a good student, and I'm very pissed at how difficult stand up is. I was like, oh, okay, I did this work on myself. I've come really far. Okay, now I'm hitting this, and life is going to get a little easier. No, not a chance, Deb. No, it is. I was just thinking the other day, it is the most challenging thing I've ever volunteered to do. And
I love how difficult it is. Like if I could sort it out, like if I go and watch another, like let's say I'm watching you up on stage.
Okay.
And I could actually process in my mind what you're doing, then I'm bored. But if I watch you and I have to come back and watch you again and again and again, and I still can't figure out how you're doing what you're doing, then I stay engaged. And that's how come that's half the reason I'm so hooked in comedy. Sure, the laughs and how difficult it is.
So
So what?
Okay.
Go ahead.
No, I just made a joke. I just said you're a masochist. Well, but there is something masochistic about it, about how we, I mean,
sure.
You have these highs. You could have a whole room, hundreds of people, just at your feet one night, and then the next night you're at pre-pandemic. You're at a seedy bar with a few drunk people who hardly notice you, and and it's crickets.
Yep.
It is so humbling.
It is.
And then we have to keep coming back. We have to keep.
Yes. And you almost learn, well, not almost, you learn more from the times you don't get the response than, like, if I go and I get laughs all the way through my set, which has happened maybe 3 times in 6 years, once every 2 years. I'm like, then, I'm happy, but it's like bowling blindfolded. You don't know how you did it. Like, so you're almost mystified. Like, I did great. I got a strike, but how did I get it? Was it because the crowd was good? They were in a good mood. They were drunk. They liked my dress. They liked my first joke and just laughed at everything else. It's like, that's the mystery that keeps me engaged.
That's amazing. That's a great description. I focus a lot on my writing. I like my writing a lot. And in these open mics, I mean, I will, even other places, I'll call out an audience if they don't respond the way I think they should to something I love. And it's part of my persona.
Yes.
I'm a huge fan of Howard Stern, of the
Love
Howard
him.
Stern show. I think he is the most brilliant humorist of our time. I learn a lot from him, and he interviews a lot of comedians.
Yes.
Comedy writers. And he brings so much to this. And so he's irreverent, and I'm not imitating him. He's very stream of consciousness, and what I have learned from him is to be in touch with myself in the moment. And so instead of inhibiting those thoughts, I have been letting them out more and more, and then I get the audience engaged.
Yes.
And so it's such a great lesson, because it's like what you're talking about. I think it's not just about getting down through the layers. With that is just getting in the moment.
Absolutely. noticing everything going on
Mhm.
is such a superpower.
Mhm.
The
And
way to
letting go of what isn't going of what was happening before you got to the destination, or, or how you were working on your jokes. That has been that's been the most mysterious for me.
So I want to tell you quickly about an experience. I had a coach in New York, and
Hmm.
she told me from the get-go that I should trust I have a brain injury. I got hit by a drunk driver in 96.
I'm sorry.
Thank you. In 2014, I started comedy with a brain injury, had to look at notes for 5.5 years. Last 6 months, I don't have to look at notes.
Wow.
Today I can remember the set I did last night, which has
I
never
have
happened.
I have ADD, and I had to start with notes.
So you get it. So when my coach in New York told me that I should trust that I'm funny in the moment, that I don't have to rely on notes, I don't have to over rehearse,
Yeah.
because you can come out sounding so rehearsed and mechanical.
Yes.
But I couldn't sort that out and make it work for me till the last 6 months. Well, one time I remembered in my head she had said this, to trust yourself in the moment.
Yeah.
You're funny,
Yeah.
which in my life people didn't tell me that, but she did. And so one time I signed up for this comedy contest in Portland, the biggest one in Portland. And I went there and I had 22 predictable punchlines in 5 minutes. And I practiced 30 times a day for 2 weeks. I had it down pat, not because of nerves, because of exhaustion in my mind, brain exhaustion. I got up there, forgot every single thing I was prepared to say. Not because I wasn't nervous, not a bit. And in that moment, I heard Gladys, her name's Gladys Simon. I heard Gladys Simon tell me, trust yourself, you're funny in the moment. And I just got up there and made up a set
Rift.
and just, yeah. And I had like an opening joke, some yada, yada, yada stuff, and a circle back moment at the end. And nobody knew I forgot 22 punchlines.
That's a miracle story.
It is.
That's
And
a
it has to do with being in the moment, you know.
That is a beautiful story. Thank you for sharing it.
What's your favorite story from you being on stage, Deb?
I
Favorite and least favorite?
Well, I think the first showcase I was invited to do, because I've always, you know, like you were asking me about, okay, do you have podcasts, YouTube, and I'm like, I tend to not think it I'm good enough to show to people. Like, oh no, 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 it needs more work. It needs more work.
Yeah.
And so this woman I got to know just through the comedy scene here last year. She her name's Pam Benjamin. She runs this Mutiny Radio, wonderful community comedy space, and she said, "Hey, okay, pick a date. I want you to come do the showcase." And I think I said to her, "Why?" And she said, "Because I think you're funny." And so just her belief in me,
Exactly.
that meant everything.
Absolutely.
That meant everything. Because I don't come from that. Like I'm kind of going on this idea and this dream, right? I grew up in this dysfunctional family, and there wasn't much support to go around.
Absolutely.
Right. And so to start to see that has been a huge blessing.
Yes.
Let's see, the worst was I I there was this really kind of elevated open mic. Meredith Godfrey ran it when bars existed. The Hearth, trying to name drop. Don't want anybody catching this on Facebook. You didn't mention Meredith, Deb. And I wasn't taking care of myself in the week leading up. And I just was, and it's a really important mic to me. And then I had looked at the list on her clipboard, but some of the people didn't show, and I didn't know it, and I wasn't ready because I was, I had it in my brain. Oh, this guy is going to go up before me, and I'm sitting there and I'm writing notes and I'm drinking my soda and, because I'm the one driving all the time. There's no booze for Deb. And all of a sudden she calls my name, and it was horrible. I was just very off. My timing was very off. The material was new, which isn't always a problem. Sometimes that's better for me. But I wasn't connecting, and and it's a very supportive crowd, and they tried, right? They were trying to be there with me, and that feeling of like letting the host down.
Yeah,
that is more than like I'm not a martyr, but I don't like that. If I take a hit, if I bomb, okay. But I hate letting people down.
Me too. I will work myself to death not to let somebody down. Absolutely. Yeah. I get it.
Yeah.
So you felt like you let that person down. Did you go to that person and clear that up? I just finally cleared up with something that happened 2 years ago where I let a host down. Well, I was the host. I let the headliner down.
Wow. Can I ask? Well, I went up to her. I thanked her. It wasn't like the worst bombing ever, no. But it just, I was mediocre.
Right.
Some of the jokes hit. It's not like everybody at the show was brilliant. Okay.
Yeah.
But in terms of what I want to bring,
too.
It was a disappointment. But may I hear the story of?
Sure. I was with Harvey's Comedy Club in Portland,
okay.
And I hung out and watched every show. And we had a visitor headliner, and he had just given a class to all the Portland comedians that you should hang. One of the things he said is you should always hang out at the club because you never know when a headliner is going to have someone not show up to host or feature. Mm-hmm. Well, I'd been doing that, for like a year straight, 7 shows a week. I was watching and studying everybody like this.
Wow.
And so I was the only one there when the host didn't show up one night. So he asked me to be the host. Well, that was during the time I was looking at notes. Mm-hmm. And Portland isn't very forgiving with notes. A lot of places aren't. They don't give you a free pass just because you have a brain injury. They don't really want to come out and watch comedy and see someone with a brain injury be the host. That's not their problem. They came out to have a good time, And so it's like pushing a rope up a hill to look at your notes and talk about your brain injury to people that are trying to get drunk and get away from their kids. I get it. And so that put me in like a deficit. It's kind of like leaning with your left when you come out and box.
Yeah.
And I tried to get the audience back and I got laughs, but I didn't know how to host. I just came out and I welcomed them a little and went into my material, really didn't rile up the crowd enough. And, my bad. I've learned a lot about hosting since then. So I went back, in fact, just like a week ago and let Kabir Singh know. No, it was DJ Sandhu and Miles Weber. They were the feature in the headliner. And I said, I'm so sorry. I've learned so much about hosting and I sucked. I sucked really badly. I'm so sorry. Because, you I failed at getting the room up to where they could come out and be comfortable.
Mm. So that must have, it sounds like that was a weight lifted off of you too.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. I mean, like when when you go out there and you're like fearless, like a teenager, do you know how to host? Yeah, I know how to host. You know? And then you learn, wait a minute, I really didn't know how to host and did a terrible job. And, like I've learned so much about hosting, like doing these interviews and being here in Vegas. You see hosts that are hosting with 40 years of experience traveling around the world, being willing to humble themselves and be a host for somebody else to be the headliner who's
Right.
been in comedy 5 years.
Right.
That's what you see here. So I've learned so much about hosting that I thought it was time to go clear that up.
Wow. Did you before pandemic run shows, run rooms?
Yes. I ran like 4 or 5 mics a week in Portland. Three a week were out in the public at a public town square in Portland, Pioneer Square, which is now the place where all the riots and burnings and protests are happening. But back then it was quiet, like. But yeah, I was doing open mics to all the tourists, running them.
Uh-huh.
And then 2 mics a week down at Harvey's and teaching and doing a podcast where I was interviewing people like this.
Wow.
But still, you don't necessarily know how to host. You think you do, and then you learn so much more and you go, wait a minute.
Yeah, that's what's so crazy about this business is I don't know, a month or two ago, someone I connected with, someone who I think is a good comic, I connected with him at a terrible open mic. He was like the only other decent comic, I thought.
Right.
And then he said, hey, this guy I know is looking for women. He's in Canada and he's doing an online show and he's looking for women comics. And, and so then here's this guy. And then I went to that guy and then it occurs to me, thank goodness it's online. I'm learning this online. Right. But it occurs to me, like, I don't know either of these people. This first comic who I saw, I'm trusting, and this is me. I'll hear someone set, I think I know them.
Right. Good point.
I know them like this, and I trust them. And I'm not saying people are devious. I'm just saying I'm a little naive. And it turned out he didn't even know the other guy. Like, the first guy is named Jay. The second guy is named Jerry. They turned out to be decent guys. But before I did this show, I was like, I have no idea what I'm walking into, especially as a woman.
Right.
No idea the situation I'm walking into. At first I'm flattered, and I think the first guy thinks I'm good enough, right? and there's my ego. Oh, right. Wow. Okay, well, this guy who I think is a good comic thinks I'm good enough. He's referring me to this other guy. Well, it turned out he hardly knew the other guy, right? And then I walked into the situation. It worked out fine, but it seemed, anyone can have a show.
That's true.
And we're just looking for gigs. And there is this element of, I just was thinking, like, if this was in person, right?
Good point.
I'm schlepping somewhere, and it's like, I don't know these people. I don't know what I'm gonna find when I get there.
So what you're saying is Zoom is like the Craigslist of comedy.
There you go.
We have to be careful because, like, we're getting a false sense of security with these Zoom shows. And when it goes back to Realityville, we're going to have to kick into safety mode.
Yeah, right. That's the nice thing about the internet is that we can share stories. Okay, this person isn't safe. That's the nice thing about the women's groups on Facebook, for instance. oh, okay, I had this experience with this comic, or I had this experience with this booker, and there were patrons harassing me, and it wasn't a good scene.
Yes.
So that's there's I'm you know, I'm in San Francisco, I'm near Silicon Valley. There's a lot terrible about the tech industry. But that's a positive.
Yes, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So, what do you want to promote before we hang up? Tell me some things that you want everybody to get behind you and and support you on. What's the most important things?
Gaining a little weight.
Can I have some of mine? I haven't traveled, but my hips have gone abroad.
Nice. Yeah, I stress under eat. That's my eating disorder. And so my boobs started getting smaller.
Whoa.
That's my bottom line.
Yeah, gotta save the boobs.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not an anorexic who wants to look like a boy. I want to fuck them. Okay. So Chicks with Mics for women stand-up comics and producers and hosts on Facebook. And I, all separate from that, I created a public page called We Need Comedy on Facebook, which is run by an evil traitor, but it's all we have for now. And oh yes, she said it. And so We Need Comedy is where you can list an online showcase, a booked showcase. Mm-hmm. And I created a calendar. Still has a couple glitches getting on it. But anyway, it's a way for the public to learn about these great shows that our community is putting together. And because I had friends asking me, where can I see these shows, Deb? I'm cooped up in my house. I think we're going to be cooped up for
a while.
I was just talking to a hot scientist
Ooh.
as I do the online dating, and he's telling me probably a year before rollout of vaccine.
Wow.
Yeah. So we want to get these shows in front of the general public. I think people would love to see them. So that's We Need Comedy on Facebook, and then I'm Deb Maar, like it says there, and in San Francisco, and I'm building a little comedy page. It's not ready yet, but you can come find me where I am on Facebook.
Wonderful. I thank you for coming on and opening up your heart and your life and your comedy trajectory. And I want you back on because there, like the way that your show and your mic progresses, the mic that you're doing, Women with Chicks with Mics. Mm-hmm. And I want to hear more how it develops. So I want you coming on.
This was really a terrific experience. Thank you so much for having me.
You bet. Thank you so much for coming on.
Absolutely.
You're a delight. You're like a breath of fresh air. I would love to see your comedy. Is your comedy on YouTube or
not good enough yet? When it's good enough, Linda, I'll let you know. I'm collecting clips. It'll happen. Good to get the push.
Thank you so much. I'll see you later. Let's stay in touch, okay?
I would love that.
Okay. And I want to hear back from you like in a month or two. I want some updates. I want you coming back on.
On the record. On the record.
On the record.
A month or two. I'm getting back to Linda. Everybody's hearing this.
I'm going to go put it down to tickle your ear. If I don't hear from you, you'll be hearing from me. I want you
put it in the crappy new phone.
Awesome. And I'll be looking up Chicks with Mics to see if I can get on that.
You that invitation I blanked on the minute we get off. You and I are going to be friends. I can't wait to learn more about you.
We're going to be friends. Thank you, Deb Maar. Love you lots.
Thank you.
Love you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Everybody's talking.